But there was one funny time when my girlfriend was standing up in the kitchen and she heard my dad screaming and shouting, Stella! Stella! Sit! Behave! Behave yourself! Sit down! And my girlfriend, Estella, was like, what? And she was panicking and she didn't know what to say. Luckily, I kind of put my arm on her forearm, say like, Stella, don't worry, it's not you. He's talking to a dog. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here once again. And yeah, I'm delighted to be recording. I'm recording this on a Thursday because usually Thursday is my day to try and make as much content as possible because I'm always multitasking, I'm always juggling different things, whether it's teaching my classes, preparing content for the classes, or staying as consistent as possible by making daily videos and weekly podcasts and other videos. So, yeah, it's a struggle, but I think I'm on top of it. Everything is under control. But anyway, how are you today? How's life? When are you listening to this? I'm curious. Do you normally listen as soon as the podcast comes out on Fridays? Or do you wait until Saturday? Or do you wait until you're cooking? Or do you wait until you're driving? When is your normal listening time? Because for me, at least, when I'm listening to podcasts, it's usually when I'm killing time between different activities, or I'm walking, or I'm at the gym, or now when I'm walking the dog. Yes, I said it. Today, in this podcast, we're going to be speaking all about animals, pets, and in particular, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about my life experiences with animals and pets. And the reason why I have chosen this topic for this week's podcast is because I'm dog sitting. You might be asking, wait, dog sitting? You mean like babysitting? And I'd say, yes, exactly. 100%. You are spot on because to dog sit is to look after a dog or to take care of a dog. And usually this happens with your friends' dogs or your family's dogs. And in my case, as I was mentioning on last week's podcast, telling you all about my family times, stag do, and weddings. Two of my friends last weekend, the weekend before, in fact, they got hitched. I could also say they tied the knot. And both of these expressions, to get hitched and to tie the knot, mean to get married. So then, when people get married, usually the following week they go on a honeymoon. And that's exactly what has happened because these friends are based in Brussels, really close to my house. And for me and my girlfriend, well, we love dogs, we love animals, but we don't have any pets at the moment, at least. And part of the reason for that is because we live in like a studio apartment. So there's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of space for dogs or cats. Perhaps there is. Uh, Also, we live on the fourth floor. So we have a small balcony, but even to get to our flat, there's no lift. So you have to walk up 4 flights of stairs, which I tell you can be a little bit tiring, I promise. So there's that. Also, the fact that we travel quite a lot. So then, what do you do with the dog? So for me, it's definitely a life goal and aim to get my own pet and hopefully to adopt a dog in the near to medium term future because I think dogs are amazing. They provide so much love and happiness and support and great moments. But right now, it's just not the time, unfortunately. But maybe it will be soon. And given that I've just told you that I don't have a pet at the moment, let me know about you. Have you got any pets? And if so, what pet do you have? What are they called? What are they like? Tell me everything. Introduce your pet to me. Because the most common pets to have are dogs or cats, and then after that, sometimes rabbits. Some people might have fish at home. There are also some weirdos, some oddballs that will have like scary stuff and creepy crawlies. Like, for example, one of my biggest nightmares would be to go to someone's house and that they have like a tarantula for a pet, and then the tarantula comes out of its little glass box and starts crawling around, and the next minute I might feel something, on my shoulder, and it's like, ah, what the hell? What was that? Because it might be the tarantula that has been set free and let loose, which, oh, that would be my worst nightmare. Because I might have mentioned this previously, but God, I've always had a phobia of spiders. I've always been afraid of spiders. I've been scared of spiders, terrified of spiders, horrified of spiders, frightened of spiders. Because for me, ugh, they send shivers down my spine. If I see a spider, I just, ugh, it's disgusting. It's creepy and it's scary. So, yeah, that would be the worst thing ever. Imagine going to someone's house and they say, "Ah, Lewis, you should meet my pet." And I would reply by saying, "Oh, yeah, really? Have you got a dog or a cat?" And then they might respond saying, "No, no, 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 no. I've got a tarantula or a snake or a scorpion." I think I would literally turn around and run away. Far, far away. So, as usual, I haven't planned anything for today's podcast apart from speaking about animals, pets, and maybe teaching some advanced phrases at the same time. So here we are. But let's go back, because the reason I chose this topic is because I mentioned I'm dog sitting. I'm looking after my friend's dog. I'm taking care of the dog. And the dog is called Ziggy. If you hear a dog barking at any moment, ruff, 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 you'll know why. Because she's lovely. She doesn't normally bark. She doesn't give us any problems. She's really well behaved. But from time to time, she might see her reflection or hear some other dogs or in the street walking past, and then that will set her off. So that will be the trigger for her to start barking. So hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, you have been warned. But what's it like, dog sitting? Well, I love it. At the time of recording, she's only spent one night with us. And in total, she's going to spend like 2.5 weeks with us. So right now, I'm not used to it, but I reckon in a few days, I will have got used to it. I will have got used to having a dog in the apartment all the time. And it's funny because this morning I set my alarm for 7:30, and 20 minutes before, I could hear her little claws, moving around like, because she had clearly woken up and wanted to go out for a walk. Or maybe she wanted to be fed. She wanted her breakfast. And I was still in bed, you know. I wasn't snoring, of course. I was just sleeping peacefully. I wasn't doing That would be to snore. But no, I was peaceful. I was in my bed, and then I thought, uh-oh, this is the reality of having a dog. I no longer need an alarm. My dog will be my alarm. And I guess this is the same for many of you who have children, and when they're young children, they will probably wake you up before your alarm clock goes off. So that's one little thing to get used to. Yesterday, we took her out for a few walks, and when we take her out, before, of course, she's wearing her collar. She's also wearing her harness, and then you attach the lead to the harness. In British English, we say a lead. However, in American English, they say a leash. And yeah, we walk down the 4 flights of stairs, and then we wander around the neighborhood and try to go to some green areas and look for some parks. And at the moment, everywhere is really green because spring is here. So all of the flowers and trees are flourishing and blossoming. So it's really nice. But Ziggy isn't a very sociable dog. So, usually she gets a bit scared when she sees other animals. And I understand it because Ziggy has had a bit of a traumatic childhood and upbringing because my friends adopted Ziggy from a dog shelter in Turkey because we heard that the government was going to execute lots of stray animals, lots of animals and dogs in particular that live on the streets. So we're good people, we are compassionate people, and my friends decided, well, we'll adopt her. And it's a lot of work to adopt a dog. I 100% believe that it is the best thing to do. I think it's much better to adopt a dog rather than to buy a pedigree dog, a specific breed of golden retriever and all of these things. But they made this brave and bold decision to adopt her, and we believe that Ziggy is about 3 years old, and she had been abandoned 2 or 3 times. So that's why I understand that she's not very sociable. She doesn't want to be approaching other dogs all the time because she might have gone through some really traumatic experiences when she was a little puppy. Now, thank God, we take care of her really well and we spoil her a lot and we treat her, to be honest, like a princess. And I'm saying this right now when I'm not the dad of the dog. I'm just a friendly uncle who takes care of her from time to time. But the owners are amazing with her. And where was I going with this? Well, I was telling you about when I take her out for a walk, she doesn't really chat to other dogs, but she does speak to lots of humans. So she just is so affectionate. She's so loving. And literally, I'll be walking her on the lead. She'll start going towards a group of people, and then she just wants to be stroked. You know, she'll literally sit next to them and beg to be stroked. In British English, again, we say to stroke an animal, like to caress, whereas in American English, they would say to pet. So she just wants to be pet. She just wants to be stroked. So she's lovely. She's amazing. She's beautiful as well. You might have seen her in my last video. I was just remembering, actually, yeah, she appeared in my last video about 3 short stories related to business English, including different idioms. And yeah, she's a delight. She's lovely. So I'm probably going to get sad and miss her when her owners come back from the honeymoon and we have to give her back. Hi. But that's enough about Ziggy and enough about dog sitting. Let's keep going, and I'm going to tell you about my history with animals and pets. Because, yes, when I was growing up, I had multiple pets at home. I've had a lot of cats during my lifetime because when I was 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, when I was a little baby and a toddler, my sister is like 2.5 years older than me. And I remember that my sister absolutely adored cats. She's a crazy cat lady, so to speak. So she must have persuaded and convinced my parents to get cats when she was honestly so young. It must have been love at first sight because for as long as I can remember, uh, I had cats. And the first cat I had was called Marmalade. And Marmalade was orange, of course. Like the marmalade, like orange jam that you put on your toast. So that was his name. It was a male cat. And Marmalade was lovely. But apart from seeing photos and things like that, I don't really remember what he was like because I was so young. But I don't remember, for example, if he was affectionate or if he was a bit annoying. Um, I don't really recall anything. The only thing I do remember about this is that he got run over. Yes, he got run over. And my parents could have told me that, I don't know, he got adopted by another family. But no, no, no. They told me the truth. And they said that they found Marmalade in the street and he had been run over by a car. He had been trampled. So, as you can imagine, unfortunately, Marmalade passed away. Ay, rest in peace, Marmalade. R.I.P. So that was the first pet I had that didn't live that long because he must have died when I was like 4 years old. So, what did we do next? Well, from that moment, my sister must have missed having a cat around the house, maybe me too, and instead of getting one more cat, we decided to get two. Yes, two at the same time. And the reason for this was because I believe we were looking for cats to buy or adopt, and we found two at the same time from the same litter. When speaking about animals, a litter is a group of animals that have been born at the same time from the same mother. So we must have went to somebody's house, and when we arrived, we saw these two remaining cats, little kittens. They were little babies. Cats and dogs, when they are kittens and puppies, are just so cute. They're so adorable. They're so small and fragile and playful and beautiful. But I think we went there with the intention of bringing one of these kittens home, and we took both of them back. So their names were Mars and Kit Kat, I think. You can see where the inspiration came from, right? Mars bar, chocolate bar, and a Kit Kat also. Have a break, have a Kit Kat. So we were kids, we liked chocolate, like most kids and adults, to be fair. And we thought, that's a cool name, Mars. And they're brothers. So, Kit Kat, Mars and Kit Kat. And they were black cats. I don't think they were fully black. They might have had a couple of like white patches on them, but they were mainly black. And uh, through that, we started playing with them. They joined the family. They were joining a family that was in mourning because we were sad. after having lost Marmalade, so we were in mourning. But apart from picking them up, I don't remember much else because they didn't last very long. And this is such bad luck because we got 2 cats, 2 kittens, and I think within 2 years, both of them had died. What a shame. What a pity. What a nightmare. What a tragedy. That should never happen. Cats are supposed to live until they're like 15 years old. And we lost Marmalade, and then we lost Kit Kat, and we also lost Mars. It felt like we were, I don't know, doomed. We were destined to live without cats. And I don't remember exactly how they died, but I think one of them had some kind of illness with their kidneys, and we had to take them to the vets, and then the vet advised us to put her down or put him down. I don't even remember the gender. Phrasal verb there. To put an animal down is to sacrifice an animal. Basically, to kill an animal, because if not, it's a little bit inhumane because they would be suffering and expanding their lifetime just for our pleasure. So we definitely put one of them down, and I think the other one might have got run over as well. Such bad luck. And it's not like we lived in a city centre or anything like that. We lived in a relatively quiet neighbourhood in the outskirts of Leeds, but I guess lots of people were driving fast and they weren't paying attention if you had, in particular, black cats crossing the road. But long story short, they didn't last long. We got 2 kittens. They survived for a couple of years. We had to put one of them down, and the other one got run over. Aye. So, what did we do next? Obviously, we weren't going to give up that easily. We wanted cats in our houses, yes or yes, regardless of the suffering and pain that we had gone through before. So, fourth time is a charm. So we tried at the 4th occasion to get a cat that would last more than a few years. And we found Misty. So the name of the cat was Misty, and she was really beautiful, kind of like a mixture between grey and brown and a little bit of black as well. And I don't remember picking her up or anything, but I remember basically my entire life with her. Because Misty first was named after the Pokemon trainer, Misty, who was part of the gang in the Pokemon. Yes, I was, and maybe still am, a big Pokemon fan. So that's why we called Misty Misty, because of one of the characters from Pokemon. And she was really cute. But she was never very affectionate. She was the typical cat that would be so independent. It's the stereotype. Whenever I ask any students, what do you prefer, cats or dogs? And I ask them to justify their responses, the main thing that people repeat is that cats are easier, they are more independent, but on the other hand, they're not very loving. They're not very affectionate. And this was Misty. Misty was a bit of an idiot, if you ask me. We were always running after her, trying to pick her up, trying to stroke her, trying to get her on our laps. Just for cuddles, and a bit of affection. Because if you have a pet, you want love. You want a little bit of loving. And Misty just didn't give us that. At least, she didn't for the first 10 years of her life. And the first 10 years of her life were probably between me being, let's say, 8 years old and 18. And when I was 18, I left my mum and dad's house and I went to uni. So I started studying and living in Liverpool. And there, of course, I'd go home and stay with my parents for the odd weekend or week, but I didn't live there permanently. So you could say that Misty missed me, and that changed her personality and her behavior. Maybe. Because when I started coming home from uni, I noticed a change. She would actually approach me. She would jump on my lap. She'd start purring, paw, paw, paw. And she wanted love and affection. And I had been wanting this for over a decade. And finally, the moment had come, just when I didn't live at home. Typical. But that was for me a turning point in my relationship with cats, because before then, I'd always had such bad luck with cats dying and not being very affectionate. And then finally, perhaps it was the old age, she was becoming more mature and wanted to be closer to family and enjoy the time with us, that she started to look for us, purr, and instead of scratching us or biting us, she would just kind of cuddle up to us and curl up in a little ball so we could stroke her. And this is lovely because sometimes she'd even manage to open my bedroom door. How she did it, I have no idea, but she managed to open my bedroom door, and then she would jump on top of my bed, and I could hear her purring, and this would wake me up. And honestly, it melted my heart. So, Misty was amazing, but she was only amazing for the last 8 years of her life, because she did well. Given that I had had other cats who had been run over or we had to put down when they were very, very young, Misty died when she was like 18, I think. So she was with me for more than half of my life. And in the beginning, we had one of those huge, big TVs where it wasn't a flat screen, and behind you would have like a section where cats or other things could be on top of it. And because the TV was hot because of the electricity and it was turned on, Misty used to jump on top of the TV and stay there, and her tail would dangle down, so we maybe wouldn't see some different things when we were watching it on TV, because she was there because she only wanted the heat of the technology instead of our human heat. But as she got older, she changed, technology changed, and she would, instead of going on top of the TV, she'd come to us and she'd be really nice, loving, and affectionate. And unfortunately, she passed away probably now, like 7 or 8 years ago. So it's been a while. I think I've got over that loss. I have overcome that loss by now. But yeah, Misty was great. And for a long period of Misty's life, she lived with Stella. And Stella is the only dog that I've ever had. And Stella is quite a typical name for dogs. Um, if you think about Modern Family, the dog called Stella. If you're walking around in England and you hear someone shouting, Stella! You probably imagine it's a dog. So Stella is a very common dog's name, female dog's name. There are other Stellas as well, so it can be a human's name. For example, Stella McCartney. but generally speaking, it is a dog's name. And Stella was a golden retriever, and it was my doing. So while my sister was obsessed with cats, I started to go through a phase when I was obsessed with dogs. But this only really happened as I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. So it probably coincided with us getting Misty and Misty not giving us any love. So I thought, well, let me get a dog then. Dogs will care about me. Dogs will show me love. So I remember it like it was yesterday. We were in Mallorca and we stayed in a town called Soller, and we were on the beach. I think we were actually in the water playing bat and ball with my mum. And I remember telling her, like, Mum, can we get a dog? Please. I'm begging you. Please. I promise I'll take her out for walks every single day. I promise I'll pick up the poo all the time. Listen, I'll even save up my own pocket money if I can convince you that it's a good idea to get a dog. So I was annoying. I kept repeating it over and over and over again, mainly to my mum, but also to my dad. And I was offering to do everything. I was saying, it will be 100% my responsibility. I'll look after the dog. You won't even notice that it's there. And they were first giving excuses, saying, Lewis, we've already got Misty, we've already got a cat. What if they don't get along? What if they're screaming and shouting at each other? What if they end up scratching each other or biting each other? So they were making up all kinds of excuses to try to avoid adopting or buying a pet, another pet, a dog in this case. But I was insistent. I didn't give up. I kept trying, and in the end, they crumbled under the pressure, and they gave in to my demands. And they said, all right, Lewis, if you promise that you are in charge of the dog, let's do it. You can use half of your savings, we'll pay the rest of it, and we'll go get a dog that you want, as long as it's a family dog. So from that moment, obviously, I was buzzing. I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a dog. Come on. Woohoo! So I needed to then start thinking of the breed. And at this point, we already had the internet and Google. So I was Googling different breeds. And I was weighing up the pros and cons of getting Labradors, Golden Retrievers, German Shepherds, Poodles, Pugs. So I had to do my research and investigate and look into which ones would be best for us as a family. And after carefully considering everything, we opted for a Golden Retriever because it's a family dog. They're not very aggressive. They're really cute. So, so, so cute. And I thought at the time that Golden Retrievers were quite energetic. How wrong I was. So we found a family that had a litter of Golden Retriever puppies. We went to pick one of them up, and they were referring to the dog as Stella. So they had already named the dog because the mum was called Stella. So we thought, all right, if our new/future puppy already responds to Stella, why change it? You know, it's just going to be extra work. So one day we went, picked up Stella, drove her back home. She was a little ball of fluff. I'm not sure if you know the Andrex adverts for toilet paper, and usually it's a blonde or white Labrador. Golden retrievers, when they're puppies, they look practically the same. They're just a little bit hairier. And oh, she was so cute, like so adorably cute. It was incredible. You just wanted to pick her up and cuddle her all the time. And at the beginning, of course, there was a bit of a rivalry and confrontation between Misty and Stella. But over time, they seemed to get used to being in the same space together. They settled their differences, and I think they became friends. And it was a beautiful thing to see. If, for example, they were both lying on the floor, on the rug or the carpet, especially when the sun was coming in from the window, because animals usually want sunlight to be warmer. So they'd literally sit or lie down right next to each other and fall asleep together. So I have many photos of Misty and Stella literally cuddling. Oh, and it's so cute. Um, so that's one of my beautiful memories I have with Stella. But I did say that we thought Stella would be energetic because one of my ideas for getting a dog was that I could go out for runs with the dog. So instead of going out for a normal, slow, boring walk, I could quickly get her on the harness or the collar, attach the lead, go for a quick 20-minute jog around the neighborhood, and bring her back. But most of the time, she refused. She just couldn't be bothered. She didn't want to go for a run. In fact, a lot of the time, she didn't even want to go out. And for many dogs, that's like everything they want to do all the time. They want to go out all of the time. Not Stella. And I think it's similar for many golden retrievers. That they're so loving, caring, affectionate, but they're a bit lazy. So they always end up stopping. And then they think, I'm not going to continue. Let's go back. So it could be a little bit frustrating at times that I was trying to pull her on the lead to go for a walk, and she just refused. She'd get to the top of the road, she'd do her business, she'd wee or poo, I'd pick up the poo, and then she just wanted to walk back home. So over time, she did get a little bit fat. She got a little bit chubby because she loved eating and she didn't like exercise. So what's going to happen, eh? So that's Stella. And unfortunately, when I was traveling around Australia, and this was 7 years ago now, my mum and dad called me and we had a video call, FaceTime, and they told me, Lewis, we've got some really bad news. Uh, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm so sorry, but Ste- Stella's really sick. So that was what they told me. And then a couple of days later, they had to put her down because she had had a couple of, random pains and illnesses. So I couldn't be with her to say goodbye for the last months of her life, which was sad. I cried a little bit and I raised a toast to Stella whilst I was out in Australia, and I kind of drowned my sorrows a little bit to overcome this loss because she was my dog that I fought for and I loved and I took care of. But to be honest, I did convince my parents to get Stella, saying that I was going to look after her all the time. In reality, what happened was that my dad was the true owner. He was the one who got up early to take her out for a walk. He was the one who fed her. He was the one who was with her the vast majority of the time because I went to uni, and even before uni, I was 16, 17. I didn't want to wake up early to walk a dog. So I kind of lied to my parents in order to convince them to get a dog, but they loved Stella, I loved Stella, and Estella loved Stella. Huh? Lewis? What? Who's Estella? Maybe I've mentioned her name before, but Estella is my girlfriend. And Estella, Stella, they sound so similar. So before I finish with this podcast, one funny story is how Estella met Stella. Because at uni, I met my girlfriend, then I invited her back to meet my parents and spend a weekend with my family. And of course, they hit it off. They got on really well from the get-go. But there was one funny time when my girlfriend was standing up in the kitchen and she heard my dad screaming and shouting, Stella! Stella! Sit! Behave! Behave yourself! Sit down! And my girlfriend, Estella, was like, what? And she was panicking and she didn't know what to say. Luckily, I kind of put my arm on her forearm, saying like, Stella, don't worry. It's not you. He's talking to a dog. So imagine if you were her, that you're meeting your boyfriend's family for the first time. You think that everything is going well, and then you hear your possibly future father-in-law shouting at you and telling you to behave and sit down. Imagine. Terrible. But no, that's a little funny story. And Stella and Stella loved each other just like I love them. So I think that's a great way of ending this podcast. I apologize if it's boring in any way or you don't want to hear so much about me, but I think that's what this podcast is for. Because the aim of the podcast is so you can practice your English listening skills while I try to use some advanced expressions and adjectives and verbs and phrases at the same time as I tell you stories. And of course, as always, you can listen on Spotify, you can watch it on YouTube, you can read the subtitles if you want to, or you can go without them. The ball is in your court. And as always, if you would like to have classes with me and you'd like to join my group classes or one-to-one classes, then feel free to send me an email at English with Lewis, well, Lewis at englishwithlewis.com, and I can advise you and explain anything you'd like. But yeah, the group classes are for B1, B2, C1, and business group classes. It's €20 per class, a maximum of 4 students in each class. The price doesn't change if you are on your own in the class or if there are 4 students in the class. And if, on the other hand, you'd be interested in private classes, the cost is double, it's €40. But regardless of this, I would love to always expand my community and make new friends and students at the same time. So if you're interested, check out my website, send me an email, and I'd be happy to help. But that's it for today. Let me know once again, have you ever had pets? And tell me about them. So thanks for watching, listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.